That was a great example of looping. That was awesome. Nice work. So you guys have done that before, huh?
We do that a lot because we go to like clubs, venues, anything. A lot of
Awesome,
times
man.
we have it on our iPhone or laptop, but there's no audio, so we just do it ourselves. And if you haven't noticed, I did a voice of Daniel the Turtle. And actually, Spike Spencer does a lot of anime, does the voice of Captain Zach Stevers. He was supposed to be here today, but he lives the super party lifestyle a little too much and partied too hard at the Funimation after party last night. So he says sorry to all you guys. So,
That was impressive, guys. Nice work.
all right, so we saw some tunes. Now I want to talk about how we all come up with our concepts for our animation. Like for me, for Super Piraria, I kind of just combined stuff I loved. I love superheroes, I love pirates. I had a turtle farm growing up, I still have turtles now. So I was like, would it be funny if there's this rock and roll pirate who's trying to be a superhero, but his kryptonite is he's a pirate. He loves going after the ladies, he loves doing the bad pickup lines and drinking booze and stuff. So basically that was my thing for my creation. So it's always trying to inspire stuff from your own life. That's what I've always tried to do for anything I work on in writing or creation. So what about you, Raul?
For the process?
For inspiration for like.
How I come up with my ideas? What I like to do is, I take a blank piece of paper or just an open blank panel on my computer and I just stare at it. And just until something happens. No, I'm kidding. I draw my inspiration from sketchbook. I carry my sketchbook everywhere I go and I sketch in it every day. Those of you guys that are artists and you don't have a sketchbook, after you get out of here today, go buy one and keep it from now until forever. Always keep a sketchbook, fill it up, put it on your bookshelf. Whenever you have an idea, you see something cool or anything hits you, you write it down and sketch it out. This is just for you. It's like your diary. You don't have to show this to people. It doesn't have to be beautiful. But this is, you can always look back and get your ideas from it. This is where ideas come from. Because have you ever thought of something really cool when you're driving in the car and then when you get home, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Or what? That was a great job, and it's gone. But if you had a sketchbook or a voice recorder or something, you make these notes to yourself. You can go back and then listen to them later, and that's when you can draw your inspiration from for ideas for cartoons, for comics, or whatever. But the important thing is to keep doing those sketchbooks, because then in a year or two, you got like 10 sketchbooks on that shelf, you can see how far you've progressed and how much better you've gotten, and that's gonna inspire you to keep going. You guys are gonna enter the world of independent animation filmmaking, you wanna make your own cartoons, it's a lot of hard work, and a lot of people are gonna tell you, oh, you can't do it, it's too hard, man, what are you, nuts? You're not even making money. Nah, you gotta stick to it. And if you see that you're getting better as time progresses, you're gonna wanna keep doing it. That's the trick, is sticking to it. Anybody can say, well, I'm starting my own cartoon. Yeah, let's see you finish it and move on to the next one. That's the key, you guys.
Finishing's a big part.
Finishing,
Yeah.
that's the hardest. Anyone can
Easy to
start it.
start, hard to finish.
Anyone
yeah.
can start. It's finishing the damn thing. So
Well, we'll
get
talk a little bit
sketchbooks.
about finishing too, because it's
We'll get through all the steps. So.
yeah, it's finding an approach that actually you can finish. But I'll admit I've had ideas while I've been driving the car, and I've actually tried to do little sketches on my steering wheel as I'm driving because I had like a great idea.
We don't recommend that.
Don't recommend that. Don't do that. But,
Unless you're David, he's a good driver.
but my inspiration for like a lot of my ideas and characters, it's really I always say steal from your life because Captain Zach Stevers here, I had a roommate who was a rock and roller, and he pretty much lived the pirate lifestyle, looked like that. He was like a broomstick thin rock and roll bleach blonde rocker. I mean,
all I thought about was chicks, right?
with all the chicks, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
trashed the whole place, but. It was good inspiration for Super Pirate Booty Hunt, and I take inspiration from everything in your life.
Look at The Simpsons. Matt Groening's family inspired The Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
You see,
yeah.
all great cartoons or great ideas come from around you. What you see, it's your interpretation of what you see. You know,
Yeah.
like Ken Mora's, it's a Dirty Harry takeoff. He's ripping on Clint Eastwood, but he took it in another direction.
Can't talk about it.
You know, but it's his take on pop culture. It's a satire. It's a parody. You guys can there's so many directions you can
Yeah,
go.
where did you come up with your spin on Dick here?
Well, actually, I had finished my first screenplay, which was a sort of action melodrama, and I wanted to do something completely different. And I've always been a huge fan of Mel Brooks. So if I could do something even approaching like High Anxiety or Young Things, that would be cool.
That's his best work, that early stuff.
Yeah.
High Anxiety. Have you guys seen High Anxiety? It's a great film, right?
All right. All right, so after creation comes basically character design. So you guys want to talk about that, or David, you can actually show on the computer.
Yeah, let's see. I'll show you a couple things here because let's see. And one thing about character design when you're approaching animation is, well, you start probably more complicated and then you refine yourself down, simpler, because every line in animation will have to be drawn over and over and over again. So I'll use just one example here because we did this one project we had to get done in 2 weeks. That was for, does anyone watch like G4, Attack of the Show? It's a little dated now because Kevin is no longer on it, but we were like, we had to do this spot with Kevin and Olivia Munn at the time that was like a holiday special, and we had to get it done really quick. So one of the things we decided with the design was that we lost all the outlines because it made it a lot quicker to kind of animate the characters. They didn't have to match up perfectly when you moved the legs and arms and that sort of thing. So I mean, just is one of the things to take in consideration when you do design. But Raul?
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. It's a good idea to keep it simple. Less is more sometimes. Even like if you guys look at some anime, you know, there's a lot of detail in the character and the drawing stuff, but they're not moving that much. See, the Japanese are really smart with that. They put a lot of lines in the hair and beautiful eyes and the sparkles and all that shit, you know, but it doesn't move. It's just one drawing going.
Yeah.
But it works, you know? But if you're gonna have your characters moving around a lot, you wanna keep them a little more simplified. Yeah, but before you get to character design, one thing you wanna think of is your story has to be there. Okay, the world's greatest animation is not gonna save a shitty story, but an awesome story can be told with the world's shittiest animation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, South Park.
Right,
Yeah,
South Park. That is crappy animation, but the story is blah. So who cares, right? It's just how it is, guys. But when it comes to character design, keeping it simple and being mindful of the shapes that you use, and having every character, if you were to silhouette the character out, right? And like, let's say you took your, like, bring up your guy again, that model sheet you had.
Oh, yeah.
That guy.
David's about to draw.
Right. If you black him out completely, like with a magic marker, and you just saw him like in a shadow, you can still tell what the guy, who he was. If you took another character, a little fat guy or something, every character has to have a unique silhouette, and people have to be able to recognize that, and that's a sign of a good design. Does that make sense, you guys? That's a great way to test it. And another way to test your drawing to see if it's weird or anything like that, if you do a drawing, hold it up against the mirror and then look at it in reverse, and then you'll be able to spot your mistakes. I was like, oh shoot, that's crooked. Or you can use Photoshop and mirror it, and it's a great way to look at it. It's a way to correct yourselves. But keep your character design simple, and try to, when you're designing it, if you're gonna rig your puppets, or right? Because some programs, some of you guys are gonna animate fully animated. You're gonna draw every frame, which that's a lot of work. Others, you can use Flash or Toon Boom to build a rig, a puppet. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then you can animate that, and then switch out mouths and eyes and stuff. But when you're designing it, think of how that rig is gonna work and how you draw the elbows the way you want them to work so that when you bend them, it looks good. You gotta keep all that stuff in mind. But Flash and Toon Boom is the way to go when it comes to softwares. I'm into Toon Boom big time, it's awesome. If you guys can get that, they have sales all the time on their website, you can get it cheap. Toon Boom Studio, for those of you guys starting out, is a real good way to go.
And we use Flash for Super
Flash
Power
is good
Video,
too,
so yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a little demo of how a simple character for animation can be turned really easily. I was just drawing this real quick because it's again, you're going to draw the character over and over. You want to have kind of a methodology and a construction for how you draw them, and yeah, circles. Circles are great, starting with for the head, eyes, everything else. So you want something you can draw simply. And again, this is the character.
You want to keep it loose too. And
Loose,
not
yeah. Exactly, yeah, and so I think energy and is a lot more important than having super clean lines anyway. At least when you're starting out, you want to keep it as loose as I just did this drawing. I think
as long as it
applying
reads.
it out.
The important thing is that it reads.
Yeah.
That people get what it is. If your audience goes, "What? What's he doing? You blew it, man."
Yeah, and like that character there, I mean, he would work perfectly in silhouette if you
Yeah.
just black that out, which I can show you.
So the technology's awesome. Isn't this cool? He's drawing on the screen, you guys. That's cool. I just got a Cintiq. You guys ever hear of those things? The ones you draw on the screen? I just got one and I'm totally having a passionate love affair with it. It's so awesome. You know, I'm an old school guy. I drew on paper with a pencil, and when computers came, I was like, no! Now it's like, oh, the precious. I love it.
No, they're
It's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Just drawing before on a tablet and then going like this was retarded to me.
I mean,
This makes sense.
Yeah, I love drawing on the screen. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
now.
I'm watching
Yeah.
.me and it's like, cool, man.
I still like paper though. Paper is
There's
great
something
too.
to be said
That
about
texture.
that.
This
It
is-
exists.
It's drawing
It's
in
real.
glass, but all right. So this is what you can do when you have a really simple character too. You can turn it
Yeah.
really easily, and this is all Flash 2D flat, but it does have like some dimension when you actually turn the character like that.
That's awesome, dude.
And see, it's just this is something I've kind of developed. Well, I mean, other people have used this too. It's called floating, when you kind of take one symbol in Flash and you move it across like the character's face. It makes it feel a little bit more dimensional when the character is moving. But again, it's because this character is so simple. I mean, it's
You've got different mouth shapes and blinks in there, and you can just call it in at any
this,
time,
this
right?
is
That's
like
awesome.
when you set up a character. This is my technique in Flash, but I mean you'll do this for any animation. You'll figure out every possible mouth position that character would say for basic pronunciation.
And it keeps evolving the more you go, right? It gets bigger and you add more stuff.
Yeah, and
to
you
it. So that's
start
cool.
a library, an asset library, and then you have more and more mouths. So you can go in. These were all the mouths we started with, and we started with just smiling. Then we expanded into also like frowning, and then just sucking. He was sucking on a smoothie. I'm like, all right. So you just keep adding more mouths to it, and you can build that asset library. So if like
Wait, did you say ass?
assets.
Assets, I'm sorry. No, but that's what animation is, you guys. It's a series of
Assets.
decisions that you're making as a creator, as a director. The way David did.
Oh,
It's
it's-
decisions you're making along the way.
I would say set up the character actually takes a lot more effort and time than actually animating the character. So make sure, but it's a lot easier once you have this character set up on 360, every mouth, every eye blink, every way the arm and hand can move, then it's a lot easier. So just to keep that in mind before you get to animating, it's good to put in the front effort before you actually start.
That's called
Yeah.
pre-production, you guys.
Pre-production.
Pre-production, setting up to go into production.
And you want to take your time too with the design phase because you're gonna be living with that character a long time. And I mean, every great character has gone through a lot of different incarnations from like Mickey Mouse, different looks. But definitely your first pass is usually not the one that you end up with. And our characters here, this is now their kind of final state, but they didn't always look like this, and so
They always evolve, right?
They evolve, yeah. So you want to keep evolving.
You guys ever look at like older versions of like Looney Tunes or something, or even older Donald Duck? You're like, oh, he looks a little different. And then they evolve. That's how, even old Simpsons compared to the new ones, right? It happens, man. It just gets better and better.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets worse.
Yeah.
It does, yeah, they bring in an idiot to direct, it goes south.
All right, so we got a story. We spent a long time writing it and make sure it's good. And we got our characters set down. So now the next step is voice recording. So Ken, why don't you talk about how you direct your voice actor?
All right, so I usually have, so basically I can't afford a whisper room, so I built a foam core board shell. You can get sheets like 60 inches by 96 inches. And then I lined it with Oralex foam, and then I use a broadcast quality mic. So what you end up with is a sound deadening room, but it's not really soundproof. So
Wow, dude.
a broadcast mic, as long as you're right in it, will pick up everything, and then as you go away, there's rapid decay. So if the neighbor's dog is barking, or somebody's out mowing their lawn, it doesn't ruin your recording.
What do you edit with? Once you recorded, what do you start editing your sound with?
Oh, I started with the Adobe Suite, so I have just stuck with it. Probably will eventually learn Final Cut, but it's what I know, and it allows me to produce things fairly quickly. So I record into Audition, and then I import that into Premiere for assembling my animatics.
If you guys can't afford the Adobe programs, because I know they're really expensive, there is a free audio software. I use it to do my podcast, and it works with my animation too. It's called Audacity. It's
Really
free,
good free program.
and it's real simple to use, and it works great just to start out and stuff. I do my podcast with it, and I get really good quality with it. But yeah, eventually, Adobe does do cool pro.
Yeah, David and I use Pro Tools, so, and plus,
yeah.
Pro Tools is so good because that's how we mix the audio too. We can actually put the animations at that movie file into it, and we can have 30 different layers of audio we can mix. So, what direction do you usually give to your voice actors, Ken, when working with a fella next to you?